Hey everybody, in the last several videos we've been talking about Dr. Bredesen's first book, published in 2017, that has served as the first playbook for my dad, The End of Alzheimer's, the first program to prevent and reverse cognitive decline. We've specifically been talking about the ReCODE Protocol, which he details in the book, ReCODE for reversal of cognitive decline, which is a personalized protocol that addresses multiple factors contributing to someone's cognitive issues, bringing them back to optimal ranges, and helping patients reverse disease and symptoms. Dr. Bredesen's team has helped hundreds of people reverse their cognitive decline, establish mild cognitive impairment, and Alzheimer's disease with this protocol, as evidenced in successful studies in 2014, 2018, 2022, and current clinical trials. In the last several episodes, we've been talking about core areas of the protocol, like diet, exercise, sleep, stress reduction, resolving inflammation, healing the gut, optimizing hormones, and mineral status. Building off of these, next up is eliminating toxins. Dr. Bredesen's team has seen that every one of their patients has some level of toxicity in their body. The toxins come in varying levels and from different sources. Toxins routinely found in patients have been chemical toxins like glyphosate, biotoxins from bacterial, fungal, viral, and/or parasitic infections, heavy metal toxicity, and mycotoxins from indoor molds. This is especially amplified in the group of patients whose cognoscopy comes back positive for Dr. Bredesen's type 3 toxic subtype of Alzheimer's. This subtype often presents with cognitive decline at an earlier age and will frequently be diagnosed with early-onset Alzheimer's. The primary reason for the cognitive decline is acute toxicity that hasn't been picked up or addressed yet. I've linked to episode 11 that briefly goes over Dr. Bredesen's Alzheimer's subtypes in the description below. Now, the top two toxicity profiles Dr. Bredesen's team has seen the most in patients are heavy metal toxicity and mycotoxins, that is mold toxicity. Heavy metals like mercury, arsenic, lead, and cadmium are neurotoxic, especially in high concentrations. Mercury is the most damaging of these four, as it has a long list of how it poisons and shuts down the body and brain. Common symptoms are memory loss, depression, mental illness, insomnia, tremors, and motor dysfunction, among many more. Common sources are large fish that collected from ocean pollution, like tuna and swordfish. Dr. Bredesen prefers us to keep to smaller, safer fish like salmon, mackerel, anchovies, sardines, and herring to reduce exposure. The other most common source of mercury are dental amalgams that for years have been termed silver fillings. These silver fillings have very little silver and are made up of a mix of metals containing up to 55% mercury. We'll dive deeper on this in future videos. Arsenic, lead, and cadmium also affect the brain significantly, creating impaired cognition, diminishing executive function like problem solving, planning, and organizational ability, deteriorating verbal skills, lowering IQ, inducing depression, and destroying hormonal function. We're commonly exposed to arsenic from groundwater, especially in areas like the Western United States, Taiwan, and China. Non-organic chicken, because of the feed they're given, is also a common source. Lead exposure is typically from paint and dust, commonly in old homes and buildings, and exposure to cadmium, a known carcinogen, can come from cigarette smoking, working in chemical factories, and from modern paints, especially those brilliant yellows and reds. There are several ways to test for heavy metals, but Dr. Bredesen prefers the accuracy of the Quicksilver Metals Panels test, whereas ideal lab ranges are mercury, arsenic, lead, and cadmium, all under the 50th percentile. Mycotoxins are the toxins made by indoor molds that grow inside water-damaged buildings. It has been estimated that at least 70% of all homes and buildings in the U.S. have some level of water damage that oftentimes hasn't been caught. That tiny leak in the roof leading to dripping behind a wall, excess moisture seeping in from another weak point in the home, or even water damage from the past that wasn't remediated appropriately can all lead to the growth of indoor molds. The most common offending molds are Stachybotrys, Aspergillus, Penicillium, and Chaetomium, and their toxins are powerful but odorless. Many times these molds are silently hiding but nonetheless affecting us and inducing what Dr. Richie Shoemaker has named CIRS, or Chronic Inflammatory Response Syndrome. One of Dr. Bredesen's colleagues, Dr. Richie Shoemaker, has studied, researched, and helped patients recover from mold illness for over 25 years. Symptoms are many and varied, including asthma, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, nosebleeds, rashes, shortness of breath, cognitive decline, headaches, excess histamine, and overall neurological dysfunction. He's seen that there are at least hundreds of thousands of mold illness cases every year that are being treated, but far many more are suffering from the debilitating symptoms and don't know mold is at the root of the problem. His data has also shown that about 75% of us can genetically take on mold toxins with a bit more resiliency, but the other 25% of us are genetically predispositioned to be debilitated by the constant and chronic inflammation that rages if the mold exposure is not eliminated and the mold illness is not treated. There are many lab tests to get a clear picture of where we stand with mold, but to keep it simple for this video, because this is a deep topic that we will break down with more detail in future videos, Dr. Bredesen's optimal lab result is the urinary mycotoxin tests negative for the most damaging mold toxins: trichothecenes, ochratoxin A, aflatoxin, and gliotoxin. Dr. Bredesen has found the toxic presentation of Alzheimer's to be the most challenging to help patients recover from because there are a lot of moving parts. There's also a good amount of detective work to do to identify which toxins the body is burdened with, what the sources of exposure are, and what is the optimal treatment and detoxification plan that can help the patient heal. Detoxification is tricky because it often has to be a relatively slow process and can only progress at the pace that the patient can tolerate. Going too fast can make things worse, so a great doctor in your corner is a must. Dr. Bredesen leans on Dr. Chris Shade's protocols for recovering from heavy metal toxicity and Dr. Richie Shoemaker's and Dr. Neil Nathan's protocols for recovering from mold toxicity. We'll dive deeper on these in the future. I'd love to hear from you. Have you recovered from heavy metal or mold toxicity, and how'd you do it? If you found this information helpful, please feel free to share this video with anyone you think it could serve. And remember, I'm not a doctor, I don't have a PhD. I'm a caregiver and citizen researcher on the ground helping a loved one, someone just like you. This information is for educational purposes only. Please consult your medical practitioner before implementing any changes. Thank you for watching. My dad thanks you. Hope these resources are helpful to you and your family, and see you in the next video. Thanks.